Sometimes, evil doesn't scream. It whispers. It hides in plain sight. And in this case, it waited. For 2 long years, no one even knew a murder had taken place. Welcome back to True Crime Hub, where every mystery finds its echo. Today's story isn't just chilling, it's surgical. A disappearance so clean, investigators were left chasing shadows. It started as an ordinary wellness check. A concerned neighbor. A few unanswered texts. A mailbox overflowing with letters. And then, an unlocked door. Detective Lydia Price of the Monroe County Sheriff's Department recalls it vividly. The house was still. No sign of forced entry. No blood. No body. Nothing. But something felt off. Too quiet. Too untouched. The home of 48-year-old Theresa Hollings appeared frozen in time. Groceries on the counter. Dust gathering on the television remote. Laundry in the machine. Damp and sour. Theresa had lived alone after her divorce. Quiet but not invisible. A retired librarian, known for her obsessive routines and fiercely private life. Her neighbors didn't raise the alarm until months had passed. Why? Because Theresa's bills were paid. Her lawn was mowed. Her email auto-responded. Her phone pinged cell towers like clockwork. Theresa had, for all intents and purposes, vanished without vanishing. And yet, when police finally entered her home in 2023, 2 years after anyone saw her, one thing was unmistakable. Theresa Hollings was gone. But how does someone disappear so cleanly that not even time notices? Stay with us, because what comes next will leave you questioning the very nature of justice. If this story already has your heart racing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap that bell icon so you don't miss what comes next. Because this one, it's only just beginning. Theresa was clockwork. Neighbors remembered her morning walks at exactly 6 a.m., rain or shine. Her trash went out every Tuesday at 7:45 a.m. sharp. Her front light turned on at 8:15 p.m. each night. She rarely made conversation, but she wasn't unfriendly. Her world was just small, tightly wound and orderly. She didn't travel. She didn't party. No known enemies. Her ex-husband, David Hollings, had remarried and moved to Colorado. We hadn't spoken in years, he told police. She liked it that way, said peace was finally hers. No children, no close friends, no job after early retirement. Just Theresa and her pristine 2-bedroom ranch house on Willow Creek Lane. But something about that peace felt too perfect. Police found her calendar neatly marked through mid-2021. Then, nothing. Theresa's bank accounts showed minor recurring charges, utilities, groceries delivered every Thursday. A security system logged routine activity, motion detected in the kitchen, thermostat changes, even minor web activity on her home computer. But when tech forensics stepped in, something horrifying surfaced. All that activity was spoofed. Theresa's online footprint continued for nearly 2 years. It wasn't random. It was calculated. Groceries were ordered but never picked up. Emails were opened but never answered. Even messages to distant relatives received short, robotic replies. Her Netflix account played the same shows she always watched. Her favorite crossword website was logged into. It was like someone became Theresa online. Investigators dug deeper. They traced the IP addresses logging into her accounts. It wasn't her home. It was a public Wi-Fi hotspot, a diner 5 miles away. And security footage from that diner. A figure, always in a baseball cap, always hooded. Every Thursday. Same time. Same booth. Face always obscured. Then came the breakthrough. One slip-up. A fingerprint left on a salt shaker. It belonged to Dylan Cass. Dylan was a maintenance worker, hired occasionally through a local handyman app. Quiet. Unassuming. Worked odd jobs for elderly residents, including Theresa Hollings. He'd fixed her leaking water heater in April 2021. Receipts showed small transactions. He returned twice more for gutter repair and garage door alignment. Then, he vanished from the app. Police found Dylan living in a trailer on the outskirts of Monroe County. Alone. Clean record. When questioned, he claimed he hadn't seen Theresa since spring of 2021. Said she was particular, but kind. No forced entry. No witnesses. No motive. But Theresa's laptop had his fingerprint under the trackpad. And her car's passenger seat had his DNA. When they searched his trailer, they found something chilling. Inside a locked drawer beneath Dylan's bed were small, unassuming objects. A hairbrush, a scarf, a journal, a pair of prescription glasses, all belonging to Theresa. He claimed she gave them to him, that they were gifts. But the real bombshell came when forensic teams uncovered trace human remains in a garbage bag buried beneath the trailer's porch. Partial femur, burned tissue, DNA matched Theresa Holliing's. Still, without a complete body, Dylan couldn't be charged with murder. And then came the twist, a note, tucked inside the scarf. Faded ink, barely legible. I can't breathe when he's near. I think he's watching me even when he's not here. If I go missing, it's Dylan. The note changed everything. Suddenly, what was previously circumstantial became charged with terrifying clarity. Theresa had left behind a breadcrumb, subtle, fragile, and desperate. If I go missing, it's Dylan. Detectives now had something they could build on. But the real question was, when did she write it? The ink analysis showed it had aged around mid-2021, just before Theresa vanished. This aligned with Dylan's last confirmed repair visit. That gave the note weight and a possible timeline. Investigators revisited the footage from the diner, looking for patterns. Dylan always came on Thursdays, but he never spoke to anyone. He always brought a laptop. That laptop became the key. When they finally obtained a warrant and seized it, it contained a ghost drive, a hidden, encrypted partition. Digital forensics cracked it within 48 hours. Inside, screenshots of Theresa's bank accounts, copies of her passwords, and in a chilling twist, a video. The video was dated June 4th, 2021. Theresa is sitting on her couch. She looks tired. Her voice is hushed. If anything happens to me, this man is dangerous. He's in my house when I'm not here. He knows my passwords, my patterns. I think he's planning something. The video cut out. There was no follow-up, no second video, no timestamp beyond the metadata. But it was enough. This wasn't just a disappearance. It was stalking, predation, psychological terrorism. Dylan had begun studying Theresa long before she vanished. And if he was smart enough to mimic her life online for 2 years, what else was he hiding? The police intensified their search. But it wasn't just his trailer they needed to check now. They traced his old jobs, his former landlord, his storage units. And what they found next would pull the thread on something even darker. At a public storage unit registered under a fake name tied to Dylan's old burner phone, police found a metal trunk. Inside, several sealed evidence bags. None of them belonged to Theresa. There were at least 4 different driver's licenses, all women. All from different counties. Some missing. Some presumed dead. One bag held jewelry. Another, handwritten letters. Love notes. Apologies. Confessions. One read, "I didn't know who he really was." Suddenly, Theresa's case didn't feel isolated. It felt connected. Part of a pattern. A hidden predator living off the grid, moving between towns, taking odd jobs. Always targeting women who lived alone. Always vanishing after just a few visits. Theresa wasn't his first. And now, the FBI stepped in. FBI profiler Dana Marcus reviewed Dylan's movements over the last 12 years. What they found was disturbing. He'd held over 40 short-term maintenance gigs across 5 states. The timeline began to sync. In nearly every town he visited, a woman either disappeared or filed a stalking complaint. But none of them ever stuck. He was too careful, too clean. No social media, no family, no digital signature. His only constant was Theresa, the one he watched long enough to become. And the chilling truth? His level of detail went beyond mimicry. He filed her taxes. He sent birthday cards to her distant relatives. He had even created a fake voice memo using AI-generated software to leave voicemail messages in Theresa's voice, buying him more time. The monster wasn't just hiding, he was performing. But even the most careful killers make mistakes. One day, Dylan logged into Theresa's old PayPal account and bought an item from an antique store in Nevada using her card. That triggered an alert. A clerk recognized the man from the store security cam. He used a different name, Alan Driscoll, but the face was unmistakably Dylan's. Police swarmed his trailer the next day. He wasn't there. Inside, they found printed scripts, pages of what appeared to be daily logs, of how he pretended to be Theresa. Line-by-line breakdowns. He had become addicted to the performance. But he had also left something behind, a second video. One he had made himself. And in that video, Dylan stared straight into the lens. I kept her alive in the way that mattered. Then he smiled. The video of Dylan smiling, cold, calculated, went viral. Not because it was leaked to the public, but because law enforcement shared it internally across state lines, warning departments to be on alert. But it was already too late. Dylan was gone. He'd ditched his trailer, wiped his burner phones, and changed his appearance. CCTV footage showed him crossing into Nevada 2 days before the antique store purchase, and that was the last confirmed sighting. U.S. Marshals took over. They believed Dylan had been planning this exit for months, maybe even years. And they were right. They discovered that Dylan had opened safety deposit boxes in 3 separate banks under 3 different aliases. Each contained small amounts of cash, burner IDs, and prepaid SIM cards. He wasn't just hiding. He was vanishing. Again. Then, just as momentum in the case slowed, another woman went missing. Her name was Margaret Lane, 52. Lived alone on the outskirts of Sparks, Nevada. A widow. No children. Her last contact with anyone. A maintenance request through a mobile handyman app. The name used to schedule the visit, Alan Driscoll. Local authorities rushed to the home. Her car was still in the driveway. Her porch light still flickered. But Margaret was gone. Inside, her home was spotless, eerily so. Kitchen wiped down. No prints. Bathroom sanitized. Even the garbage was removed. The only thing left. A single note, taped to the inside of her medicine cabinet. If something happens to me, ask about Dylan. Profiler Dana Marcus updated her assessment. Dylan had grown bolder. Riskier. His thrill wasn't just about control. It was now about being watched. Each disappearance came with a clue. A breadcrumb. A calling card. He wanted them to know it was him. They began to suspect a psychological unraveling. What had once been precision was becoming performance. Dylan was feeding on the attention. And it became clear, he was no longer targeting just the isolated or the vulnerable. He was selecting women who left patterns, routines, predictability, because he didn't just want to erase them. He wanted to replace them. Until now, the Hollings family had remained silent. But with Dylan still at large and more women in danger, Theresa's estranged sister, Eleanor, came forward. She had spent years trying to reconnect with Theresa before the disappearance. We weren't close, but we had a bond growing again. She'd started sending me postcards. At first, I thought she was pulling away again when they stopped. But now, I realized she was being silenced. Eleanor shared one postcard dated May 30th, 2021. It included a cryptic message. He fixed the lock today, but I think he has the key. The message wasn't clear at the time, but now, it read like a warning. A subtle plea. Eleanor's public interview put the case back into national spotlight. And that's when the tip came in. A desk clerk at a small roadside motel in Utah saw the viral story and recognized the man in the leaked surveillance stills. He had checked in under the name Walter Haynes. Paid cash. Stayed for 3 nights. Always wore gloves. Room 9. By the time U.S. Marshals arrived, Room 9 was empty, but not clean. Inside, they found shredded paper flushed into the toilet. Burned photos in the sink. A mattress flipped upside down and cut open. Inside the mattress lining, an SD card. It contained sound recordings. Long, unbroken monologues of a distorted voice. I didn't kill her. I preserved her. She was static. I gave her movement. I'm not a monster. I'm a necessity. Each file was labeled by date. Every Thursday. For 2 years. Theresa's routine hadn't just been copied. It had been documented. Studied. Rehearsed. The audio files from the motel room were disturbing, not just in content, but in clarity. Dylan's voice was modulated. Yes, but it was unmistakably him. And each recording was paired with the day and time Theresa would have normally completed a task. Thursday, 11:30 a.m. grocery list. Add tomatoes. She always bought tomatoes. For salad. No dressing. He wasn't just mimicking her life. He was narrating it. In one file, dated exactly a week before police entered Theresa's house, Dylan speaks directly into the recorder. She's not missing. She's behind the curtain. I gave her privacy. She hated noise. That phrase, behind the curtain, sparked immediate concern. Investigators rushed back to Theresa's property. Not the house, the garage. There, they found a separate crawl space, behind a thick thermal curtain. It was barely big enough for a person to crawl through. At first glance, it looked like insulation and storage. But then they noticed the lining. Plastic. Fresh. A sealed chamber. Inside, they found fabric scraps, clothing, and skeletal remains. DNA confirmed it, Theresa Hollings. She had been there all along, just feet from where police had first searched. Hidden in silence, under the very home where she'd once lived her meticulous, quiet life. Forensics showed signs of blunt force trauma to the skull, likely killed quickly and intentionally. She'd never left her home, but her life had been lived, in absentia, by someone else. The revelation ignited public fury. How could law enforcement have missed this? Why didn't the first search uncover the space? The answer: Dylan had sealed the area behind newly installed drywall, under the pretense of garage insulation upgrades. Work he did himself. With Theresa's remains recovered, authorities could finally piece together the timeline of her final days. Between May 20th and June 4th, 2021, Dylan visited her home 3 times. The journal entries stopped. Her neighbors recalled no more sightings. The final grocery delivery was never brought inside. One neighbor reported hearing a scream, like something cracked, on May 28th, 2021. But no call was made. Theresa likely died that day. What followed was a meticulously planned 2-year performance. Dylan moved into the crawl space for days at a time to avoid detection. He wore gloves, used Theresa's devices remotely, took meticulous notes. Theresa's body was hidden within 10 feet of her front door, and no one knew. It wasn't until Dylan broke her routine, just once, that people began to suspect. A missed phone call, an uncharacteristic email, an unanswered knock from a mail carrier. Dylan had grown arrogant. He believed he was Theresa, and that arrogance became his unraveling. Investigators also discovered that Dylan had tried the same with another woman 6 years earlier, but failed. She reported a stalker. The complaint was dismissed. Her name? Lacey Harmon. She disappeared 3 months later. Lacey's body was never found. Until now. While cross-referencing Dylan's travel history, authorities found he'd stayed in a small lakeside cabin near Lake Mead in 2017. A property search revealed that no maintenance had been done in over 5 years. Inside the abandoned cabin, police found another sealed crawl space, this one behind a fake wall in the bedroom. Inside, remains. A wallet, jewelry. Dental records confirmed the identity, Lacey Harmon. Dylan had done it before. And now, the FBI reclassified the case as a serial offender investigation. What began as a single clean disappearance had unraveled into a multi-state horror story, with Dylan at the center. But he was still out there. The forensic team began re-examining the house Dylan once shared with Emily. There was something unnerving about its cleanliness. Not a speck of dust. Not a fiber out of place. One investigator commented that it felt more like a showroom than a home. A place purged not just of life, but of memories. They brought in specialized equipment to detect possible hidden compartments or disturbed construction. In the crawl space beneath the house, thermal imaging picked up something faint. An odd shape, cooler than its surroundings. What they uncovered was devastating. A compartment hidden behind an insulation panel. Inside, a lockbox filled with hair clippings, receipts, and mementos, each tagged with initials and dates. Not just Emily's. Multiple women. Multiple timelines. Each item was catalogued and cross-referenced with missing persons reports. The patterns emerged like ghosts from the void. Women who had seemingly vanished without a trace, all with one detail in common. They had interacted with a man named Dylan, though often under aliases. One particular case shook the investigators deeply. A young woman named Natalie Rogers had vanished 4 years prior. Her case had gone cold quickly. No family, transient work history, no digital footprint strong enough to alert concern. But inside the lockbox was a silver ring engraved with her name. Her last known address was a halfway house 2 towns over from Dylan's. The staff recalled she had a friend, Tom. That's what he called himself. Kind, helpful, always offered to drive her to job interviews. The timeline fit. The method matched. Another unseen victim. Natalie's story reopened the investigation into how society fails its most vulnerable. How isolation can cloak even the most violent crimes. She had disappeared without anyone truly noticing. The public began asking, how many others? With mounting evidence, investigators turned their attention to a set of handwritten journals found in Dylan's garage. They were meticulous, bound in leather, dated, and filled with cryptic symbols and shorthand references. It wasn't clear at first whether they were delusional fantasies or memories, but with forensic linguists and criminal profilers involved, the pages began yielding truths. There were entries like, 7th, quiet, didn't struggle, liked the quiet, stayed a while, 11th, Emily. The pause was longest. Almost ruined it. Almost. And then chillingly. Too clean. Might be a problem. Time will tell. This wasn't just obsession. It was art to him, methodical, detached, and ritualized. He wasn't acting on impulse. These were rehearsed acts of psychological and physical domination. Investigators knew they weren't just dealing with a murderer. They were chasing a serial predator whose mind worked in layers. Emily's sister, Sarah, became a relentless voice in the media. Her calm composure cracked during an emotional press conference. She held up one of Emily's old diaries, pages that had once documented love, then uncertainty, then fear. This was her voice. This was her life. And we all missed the signs. Sarah demanded accountability, not just from Dylan, but from the police who delayed action, the neighbors who heard arguments but didn't report them, and the system that allowed someone so manipulative to move undetected. Her advocacy reignited national conversation about coercive control and emotional abuse. Women across the country shared their own stories of gaslighting, of being made to feel paranoid, of being erased without bruises. Just as authorities thought they had seen the worst, a new twist emerged. One of Dylan's former co-workers came forward after seeing the news. He shared that Dylan had spoken about owning an old storage unit across state lines, one he hadn't visited in years. The police quickly secured a warrant. Inside that storage unit, they discovered boxes. Dozens of them, each meticulously labeled with dates, initials, and locations. Some were filled with personal items. Others had photographs. One box, dated 2 years before Emily's disappearance, contained a burner phone. When analyzed, it revealed chilling voice recordings. Unidentified women, begging, pleading. What was once considered a one-time tragedy was now officially reclassified, serial, patterned, hidden in plain sight. While investigators continued analyzing the storage unit evidence, one piece shocked even the most seasoned detectives, a recording labeled Final Hour Natalie. It contained audio of a woman pleading for her life, followed by a man's voice, calm, cold, and calculated, speaking as if reading a script. The voice was unmistakably Dylan's. That recording was the smoking gun. Confronted with the evidence, Dylan initially remained silent. But after days of mounting pressure, he unexpectedly asked to speak to a detective privately. Cameras recorded what would become one of the most haunting confessions in modern criminal history. "I never wanted to hurt anyone," Dylan began, eyes hollow. "But control, it's intoxicating." He confessed to the deaths of Emily, Natalie, and at least 2 other women whose identities were still unknown. He laid out each encounter, how he manipulated, isolated, and ultimately murdered them with precision. Each crime, he said, was flawless. His calm tone was chilling. He admitted to hiding Emily's body in a sealed compartment behind the fake wall in their home for nearly 2 years. News of Dylan's confession stunned the nation. Social media exploded with anger, grief, and disbelief. Women's rights organizations, domestic violence survivors, and advocates began mobilizing under the hashtag #JusticeForEmily. Emily's mother, Margaret, appeared on national television in a tearful interview. "My daughter wasn't weak. She was scared. And now I know just how much she endured." The audio recordings were never released publicly, but court transcripts later detailed their contents. The psychological control Dylan exerted became a case study in coercive domestic abuse. Dylan's trial began 6 months later. Prosecutors didn't seek the death penalty. Instead, they pursued life without parole to give every victim's family the chance to speak. Over 3 weeks, victim impact statements filled the courtroom. Survivors of Dylan's abuse, family members, and experts painted a vivid picture of his long history of manipulative, predatory behavior. In one moment that silenced the courtroom, Sarah stood and read Emily's last journal entry. "If anything ever happens to me, please don't let him erase me." The jury deliberated for just 4 hours before delivering a unanimous verdict, guilty on all counts. In the wake of the verdict, Emily's story inspired sweeping change. Her case prompted legislation mandating stronger protections for domestic abuse victims, particularly those facing non-physical coercive control. The Emily's Voice Act was passed, funding programs for survivors and requiring law enforcement to receive specialized training on subtle abuse patterns. Sarah started a foundation in her sister's name. It provides shelter, counseling, and legal help to women trapped in psychologically abusive relationships. Emily became more than a victim. She became a symbol of silent suffering and the power of truth. This story wasn't about just one man's twisted mind. It was about the hidden, quiet terror that too many endure behind closed doors. Dylan almost got away with murder because he mastered manipulation and created a reality so normal no one questioned the silence. He used charm as a weapon and control as a leash. But truth has a way of surfacing, even in the quiet. If you or someone you know feels unsafe, unheard, or emotionally trapped, don't wait for signs of physical harm. Psychological abuse is real. Coercive control is real. And help is out there. Talk to someone. Document everything. Reach out. Loudspeaker, let Emily's story be more than a tragedy. Let it be a wake-up call. Speech balloon if this story moved you. Like and share this video so more people hear Emily's voice. Subscribe to True Crime Hub for more powerful stories that deserve to be told. Hit the bell icon to never miss an upload. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and trust your instincts.